Buckingham Palace, official London residence of Britain's sovereign since 1837, is probably one of the world's most famous addresses, with an exterior that's familiar to all, yet an interior that's wrapped in mystery. Its quadrangle and grand entrance is the ceremonial centrepiece for the nation's welcome, be it to kings, queens, presidents or diplomats. And it also provides the same welcome when, for a select number of days a year, the doors of the grand entrance are open to recipients and their guests to receive their honour at the investiture ceremony. Nowadays, tens of thousands of people see the state rooms and gardens, either as guests to one of the series of summer garden parties or as visitors to the summer opening every August and September. But very few get this special invitation. A short walk from Buckingham Palace across Green Park at St James's Palace is the central chancery of the Orders of Knighthood. It's part of the Lord Chamberlain's office and is responsible for governing the Orders of Chivalry and maintaining the records of all appointments, promotions and deaths within the order. They also take the lead in organising investitures and the sending out of invitations, together with warrants signed by the Queen.
How many have we got then for tomorrow, Rachel?
We were 95 people coming today, but I'm afraid we've lost one. Mr Mason has gone into hospital, and so we're down to 94.
94. And how many guests now, do you think?
It's 279 guests.
279.
One gentleman is apparently slightly deaf, but I think he wears a hearing aid.
He's got a hearing aid, and there's no need for a sign language interpreter,
no,
is there?
No, not this time. No.
Well, I think that's it. I think we've covered all the points now.
Yes.
Thank you very much.
Right.
Following the compilation of the New Year and the Queen's birthday honours lists, the details of the awards are first checked against records held by the Central Chancery before being sent for publication in the London Gazette. When the various insignia arrive from the manufacturers, each decoration is very carefully scrutinised for blemishes and then stored in the Central Chancery's vaults to await its recipient. At 8 o'clock in the morning, London is already alive to another working day, and for the select 100 men and women who are anxiously making their way to the capital, it's the culmination of many weeks of preparation. It's the day of their investiture at Buckingham Palace. Preparations at the palace are well underway. Everything in the state rooms, including the ballroom, scene of many state and official occasions, and where today's investiture will take place, are given detailed and careful attention. As the gates of Buckingham Palace are open to the recipients and their guests, up in the ballroom, final checks are being made by the Secretary of the Central Chancery of the Orders of Knighthood, Lieutenant Colonel Alexander Matheson. A select number of investitures are held at Buckingham Palace each year, spread over dates covering all the seasons, when recipients and their guests are treated to a sumptuous display of art and indeed history as they carefully make their way through this imperial palace. The honours system and the concept of the investiture as we know it today is relatively new, given that the history of the monarchy spans over 1,000 years. Honours for chivalry have been around for centuries, but it was largely due to the Queen's grandfather, George V, who in 1917 established the Order of the British Empire so that honours could be more widely given to deserving citizens from all walks of life, men and women, for their contribution to the war effort. With the ending of the First World War and the armistice in 1918, the King extended the range of recipients to include those from the world of science, the arts and literature, as well as the voluntary and charitable sectors. The investiture is a very special occasion, and each recipient will take away an impression of magnificent sights and sounds that will be long remembered and talked about. Part of that occasion is given by the Yeomen of the Guard arriving here from their headquarters at St James's Palace. Created by Henry VII in 1485 after his victory at the Battle of Bosworth Field, they're not only the oldest of the royal bodyguards, having given long and faithful service to the sovereign for over 500 years, but they're also the oldest military corps in the United Kingdom and probably the world. There is no doubt that investitures are stage-managed with military precision. Each recipient must be in the right place at the right time, be briefed as to what to expect when reaching the dais and what to do once the honour has been presented. The timing is well rehearsed and must be accurate for it all to begin at 11 o'clock. The Green Drawing Room, the first of the state rooms at the top of the grand staircase, is richly furnished and includes chairs made in the 1820s for Windsor Castle. It has a grand piano purchased by George IV in 1820, originally destined for the music room gallery at Brighton Pavilion. It's just one of the many state rooms frequently used for receptions. But today, while the room is readied and the props are set, there's time for new knights to get acquainted.
Ladies and gentlemen, good morning. Can I ask you to stand on that side with your backs to the mirrored doors and...
Their briefing is carried out by the Comptroller of the Lord Chamberlain's office, Lieutenant Colonel Sir Andrew Ford.
The investiture this morning, ladies and gentlemen, will take place in the ballroom, which is some distance behind me, and we'll get you there as a group. I think the best thing I can do is to walk myself through the procedure you'll be going through and take any questions should you so have them afterwards. And I'm going to start that process by standing in that doorway there, which pretty much replicates the doorway that you'll find yourself standing in, looking into the ballroom. And from there, I shall set the scene. As I say, you'll find yourself at the head of a queue, looking into a much larger room than we're presently standing in. And I'll do this in a very, very quick way. David sets you off, forward you go, come up alongside Laurie here, wait. Surname is called, forward you go, turn, face the Duke of Cambridge, tip of the head, curtsy, and forward you go. Now for 4 of you, let's just be very clear who those are. Sir Philip, thank you very much, and Sir Richard, thank you very much. Sir Michael Owen, thank you very much. And finally, Sir David, for you 4 gentlemen, the stool will be in the way. Why? Because you're to be knighted, of course. So foot up against the edge of the stool in this manner. Take the hand in your right hand, nice resting motion on your right knee, and the Duke of Cambridge will place first on your right shoulder and then your left shoulder the sword. So touch, touch, stand up. He won't say arise a hero or anything like that, I'm afraid. So up and move to the left of the stool, where you receive the balance of your awards. For everybody else here, this stool simply won't be here. Someone would have magicked it in and out. So come up to the point that your toes are up against this fringe, this gold marking on the edge of the mat. Receive your awards, conversation, handshake, reverse. Just give yourself a little bit of space. Tip of the head, curtsy, right turn.
George IV's original palace lacked a large room for state and official entertaining. But Queen Victoria rectified that shortcoming by adding the ballroom in the mid-1850s. First used in 1856 for a grand ball to celebrate the ending of the Crimean War. These days, it's one of the rooms used for the annual diplomatic reception, attended by 1,500 guests, ambassadors, diplomats and their wives, accredited to the court of St. James. It's also the setting for state banquets, concerts and performances of the arts. Way back in 1856, it had the distinction of being the largest room in London, but today it's just the largest room in Buckingham Palace. At 122 feet long, 60 feet wide and 45 feet high, the ballroom could, with clever stacking, accommodate 56 double-decker London buses.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen, and may I bid you a very warm welcome to Buckingham Palace. Now, you've probably read in the blue booklet what goes on during an investiture, but I thought it might be of interest if I were to describe it again now that you're sitting in the ballroom. There are about 27 investitures held each year, and on some occasions, as is the case today, the Queen is represented by the Prince of Wales, the Duke of Cambridge, or the Princess Royal. Now, most of these investitures are held here at Buckingham Palace, but about 4 each year are held at Windsor and 1 at the Palace of Holyrood in Edinburgh. Investitures in London are always held in this ballroom, which is used for all state occasions, including state banquets. Now, shortly after I finish speaking, 5 yeomen of the Queen's bodyguard of the Yeomen of the Guard will enter the ballroom and take up positions on the dais here behind me. The Yeomen of the Guard are the oldest royal bodyguard in the world, having been founded in 1485 in the reign of King Henry VII. Then at 11 o'clock, the Duke of Cambridge and his party will enter the ballroom by the door on my left, escorted by 2 Gurkha orderly officers, which is a custom that was instituted by Queen Victoria in 1876. Please stand when His Royal Highness enters the ballroom. The Countess of Wessex's string orchestra, under the direction of Major Philip Stredwick, will then play the national anthem. Please remain standing until His Royal Highness bids you to be seated. The investiture will then begin. The Earl Peel, who is the Lord Chamberlain, announces the name of each recipient who will enter through the door over there on my right. After being invested, recipients will leave through the door on my left and then re-enter the ballroom at the rear to take their seats. At the end of the ceremony, the Lord Chamberlain will come forward and stand in front of His Royal Highness, and that is the signal for everyone to stand while the orchestra plays the national anthem once again. After His Royal Highness has withdrawn, your friends and relations who have been decorated will meet you at the rear of the ballroom as you leave. There are today 87 ladies and gentlemen for investiture, and the ceremony will take about an hour and a quarter. Thank you very much.
Before the ballroom became the centre for state entertaining, Queen Victoria used the picture gallery for large banquets. It's 155 feet long, the length of 2 tennis courts, and was designed by John Nash, as were many of the state rooms, for George IV to display his outstanding collection of Dutch and Flemish pictures, many of which still hang here. When completed by Nash in the late 1820s, it lacked good light and therefore was not a great success as a gallery built to display fine works of art. And it wasn't until 1914, under Queen Mary's guidance, that it was remodelled to include natural daylight and top lighting, which is how we see it today. There are pictures here that were collected by Charles I, Frederick Prince of Wales, eldest son of George II, by George III, George IV and Queen Victoria.
Ladies and gentlemen, good morning. Ladies and gentlemen, good morning. Can I ask you to come forward, please?
Lieutenant Colonel Sir Andrew Ford calms any apprehension and nerves with good humour and advice.
The investiture will take place at 11 o'clock this morning. It starts at 11 in about 20 minutes' time or so, and it takes place in the ballroom, which is some distance behind me, probably halfway between here and Victoria Station behind me, I might say. And we'll get you there in groups shortly before 11 through the various staterooms, and we'll get you into a room that runs alongside the ballroom and get you to a set of doors where you look back into the ballroom to receive your awards today from the Duke of Cambridge, starting, as I said, about 11 o'clock, finishing about 12:15, 12:30, something in that order. I think the best thing I can do is to walk myself through the procedure that you'll be going through and take any questions should you so have them afterwards. And I'm going to start that by standing in that doorway there, which pretty much replicates the doorway that we'll make sure you get to in good order, and from there I shall set the scene. I should say in all of this, don't worry about anything. There's no initiative whatsoever required in anything I'm about to describe. And I'll tell you the appropriate moment when you need to really switch on. But I will start, as I say, by standing in this doorway, which is the doorway you'll find yourself standing in, looking into the ballroom, a much larger room than we're presently standing in. And as you look to your right, you'll see some 280 or so of your guests seated, looking in the direction that I'm pointing at the moment. Above them is an orchestra playing music from a gallery, and where the bulk of you are presently standing will be a low dais, about 6 inches high, 20 feet broad, upon which will be members of the Duke of Cambridge's household, including, I might say, the Lord Chamberlain, the LPL, who'll be making announcements over a public address system as to who you are, why you're here, and what award you're about to receive. The Duke of Cambridge himself will be standing on a mat exactly like that one I'm pointing to at the moment in front of the dais. Beyond you will be a set of doors like the ones I'm pointing to at the moment, but they'll be much further away than those ones are from me now, which will be your exit route. Okay, there's the scene set. I hope that you have that in your mind. So what happens? David Turner, who's clearly not here standing with me now, will set you off at the appropriate moment. And you'll be going forward, as I'm going forward now, to Commodore Laurie Hopkins, Gentleman Usher to the Queen, who's your last safe port of call. Now, this is when the initiative starts coming in, okay, from now on. Because when you get to him, I'd ask you to halt, please, to wait, standing exactly as I'm standing in relation to him at the moment, with my shoulder against his chest, and you're waiting, ladies and gentlemen, to hear your surname. Words about you beforehand, words about you afterwards, but it's the surname that's the trigger for you to move forward. If you miss that for some really odd reason, you're going to get a sharp reminder from Laurie here. So surname is called, forward you go. 2 or 3 paces that it takes to center yourself upon the Duke of Cambridge, turn and face him, please. The next action is a head bow, exactly as I've just done there, chin on chest from the gentleman and a curtsy from the ladies. And forward you go. Forward you go to the point that your toes are up against the edge of this mat, and he will give you your awards. And what happens, I see you all have hooks now on your lapels, and onto those hooks, in the case of the gentleman, will be a medal, in the case of the ladies will be a brooch, and during the course of that giving, there'll be a conversation, a two-way conversation between yourself and he. It comes to an end when he offers you his hand. Take it, shake it, go back 2 or 3 paces, just give yourself a little bit of distance, tip of the head again from the gentleman, curtsy from the ladies, turn to the right on this occasion, past Grant here, through the exit doors. What happens when you go through those doors, you're going to meet members of staff again who are going to take the awards back off you, box them up, give them back to you, and we're going to usher you into the rear of the ballroom, give you a seat to witness the balance of proceedings. Pretty straightforward, I think you'll agree. I can't boil it down any more than that, I'm afraid. What else can I tell you? Ladies will take your handbags off you before you go through this procedure. Probably depending on the quality of your curtsy, you'll get them back afterwards. How do we address the Duke of Cambridge? Your Royal Highness to start with, Sir as the conversation develops, Sir from start to finish if you prefer. He certainly won't mind. That is all I've got to say. Are there any questions? Brilliant. Thank you very much indeed. We'll pick you up just for 11 o'clock and we'll take it from there. Thank you.
Slow. March.
The scene is set, the briefings are over, and the investiture is about to begin. It's 11 o'clock. On view throughout the palace is a treasure trove of art that establishes the royal collection as one of the major collections in the world today. There is a feast of fine paintings by such great European masters as Rubens, Vermeer, Rembrandt, Van Dyck, Poussin, Zuccarelli and Canaletto. There can be few waiting rooms in the world which offer their visitors such a wonderful display of original art as these staterooms give today's recipients and their guests. Honours and awards are not given lightly. They've been justly earned, and the investiture ceremony is the country's acknowledgement of that particular achievement. Many countries in the world today have honours and awards of one sort or another, but nowhere is the bestowing of titles and decorations performed in such splendid surroundings and with such grace, style and ceremony.
Professor Fiona Bull, for services to public health.
Each investiture lasts a little over an hour and brings together not only those whose achievements may not have been brought to our attention by the media, but also those who have not sought publicity but brought to the fore by the investiture ceremony. As today's investiture comes to an end, there can be little doubt that the day will have given lasting pride and pleasure to all.
Was rather surprised that it was Prince William, because until we came in this morning we hadn't a clue who was doing it. It was a unique event as far as I'm concerned.
He very much focuses on you. He's incredibly adept at making you feel at ease and also putting the focus on you because it's your award.
He was very easy to talk to, very personable. He listened to me personally, and I got the impression that he understood a little bit about my award, and given that he handed out scores of awards today, that was very impressive.
He really put me at ease. I walked towards him and I thought, I'm going to wobble here and not get it right, but he was absolutely lovely.
I think the conversation also I had with Prince William was very interesting. He obviously had done homework, and I was able to have a chat with him about my work.
He was so relaxed and so lovely to speak to, and it's just something I'm going to remember for a long, long time. It's just so lovely.
The whole atmosphere of the day really was extremely awe-inspiring, and to be in the same room with so many fantastic people was a real privilege.